Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Edge of Liberty, 1360 AM WNJC, Philadelphia, and all over the world on the interwebs, WNJCradio.com, part of the Conservative Commandos radio network, also on SHRmedia.com, who produces this fine show that you suffer through every single day, and I appreciate it. Appreciate your time very much so. A couple other stories before I wrap up the day. A story out of my home state of Massachusetts. You know, we talk about illegal immigration, and obviously the big case right now is the Steno case out of San Francisco. But there was another case that happened on July 4th in which a Massachusetts woman was killed by a bullet that was fired through her ceiling as she slept in her bed. Obviously not as shocking, I guess, to the conscience as the Steno case out of San Francisco. But the Massachusetts woman who was killed, her name was Mirda Rivera. She's a 41-year-old nurse and grandmother from Lawrence, Massachusetts. She was sleeping in her bed on July 4th from an upstairs apartment where two illegal immigrants lived despite being under federal deportation orders, and that's according to the Boston Herald. Dominican Republic nationals Wilton Lara Coloma and Jose Lara Mejia both had long histories of sneaking in. They're both, looks like this case as well as a pending murder case out of Connecticut involved also an illegal immigrant and the stabbing death of a woman. And that came after as well. And you're not hearing about either of these. Again, two other people who were supposed to have been deported, and they did not. And now a 41-year-old grandmother from Lawrence, Massachusetts, who is a nurse, is dead. When we talk about illegal immigration, the other case, which is out of Norwich, Connecticut, Jean Jacques, a 40-year-old Haitian illegal immigrant who got out of prison in January after serving 17 years for murder, had been charged with the stabbing death of Casey Chadwick, 25 years old, stabbing death as well. You know, when we talk about the illegal immigration problem in this country, and if you stand up and say, we have a huge illegal immigration problem, everyone turns around and says, well, you're anti-Mexican. Those people have dreams too. No, I'm not anti-Mexican. I'm not anti-anyone that's here legally. When we talk about illegal immigration, I always ask the same question that most gun control advocates immediately come out and say when they're trying to stop gun, quote-unquote, violence. But if we pass this rule, this law, this executive action, and we can save one life, isn't it worth it? Well, I ask you that same question with illegal immigration. When it comes to the Second Amendment, we have a constitutional protection as citizens that keeps the government from taking firearms from citizens. By the way, the two illegals that should have been deported that shot the nurse should not have even possessed a weapon. We have laws against that. So we can keep passing all these ridiculous laws, but when bad people don't follow them, it doesn't matter. But if we can change immigration to save just one life, isn't that worth it? And a lot of it has to do with just the president and a stroke of the pen. ICE, Customs, Immigration, Border Patrol, they all fall under the presidential executive branch. A lot of the rules that they do now, not enforcing customs and immigrations, not deporting people, not getting rid of the criminals who are destroying people's lives through DUI or shootings or stabbings or what have you. He has something that's the power that he has. He can actually do something about that. He has that authority. If he wants to shut down the border and make it more stringent, he actually has that authority. That is something that he could do today, should he choose to do it. But he does not. And more lives of good citizens get lost. And nobody bats an eye. It's absolutely crazy to me. People go crazy in this country when you stand up against Caitlyn Jenner or Bruce Jenner or whatever his name is, who gets a Courage Award at ESPN, and you go, no, that's not right. There's plenty of athletes who deserve that have done a lot more than have a doctor change them. All he did was make a decision and lay there, and I still say a lot of it is just because he's a narcissist versus who he thinks he really is. People went crazy if you dared say anything. We have combat vets who are disabled that compete in sports every single day. The list goes on and on of people who are 10 times more qualified than Caitlyn Jenner. But if you question it, people go absolutely insane. You're a racist, you're a bigot, how dare you, homophobe, blah, 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 blah. If you question anything like that. But when it comes to an American citizen being killed by illegals, bah. Well, you know, if he wasn't living in the shadows, this never would have happened. Really? Because most of them aren't living in the shadows. I love that statement. They're living in the shadows. No. No, they're not living in the shadows. Most of them were living in penitentiaries. That's not the shadows. They're very well documented. We knew where they were. This Jean Jacques, the Haitian immigrant who's 40. Correction, it was 17 years for attempted murder. I'm sorry, but I said murder earlier. It was attempted murder. That's not in the shadows. That's in a prison. These two guys from the Dominican Republic, they weren't living in the shadows. They were living in a third-floor apartment. And immigration knew about them because they know that they've snuck back into the country numerous times. By the way, I've seen it happen. I've seen a boat pull up, I kid you not, in Everett, Massachusetts. There's a steel crushing plant there. And you have boats that come up from the Dominican Republic, whatever, to take the crushed steel and go and recycle it. I have seen and witnessed the boat pull up and 25 illegal immigrants jump over the side and run to freedom. I have seen it happen. And it wasn't the first time it happened. It's known and nothing gets done about it. That was some years ago, but I know it still happens. That's how a lot of these folks from the Dominican sneak back in. And on the West Coast, they talk about, illegals from the Mexicans coming up over the border and in the southern part of the country. But in the Northeast, there's a huge illegal problem as well. You get Brazilians, Dominicans, Haitians. You get a lot of people. And yes, some people just come here and try to live the dream and sneak off to the side and not be a problem. But there's also a large contingency that come here and do horrific things. They get into dealing drugs. They get into gangbanging because that's the only way that, quote unquote, they can get by. And they use that for a defense when something happens and they get arrested and go to court. Oh, well, it was the only way he knew how because he was living in the shadows. We make excuses for horrific actions but do nothing to stop it. Incident involving a gun, President's front and center. If we could just save one life. If we could just stroke the pen and save one more life, this wouldn't have happened. Illegal immigration? Bah, they're just dreamers. They may be dreamers who kill good people who are living good lives, but they were just dreamers. It doesn't matter how many times we deport them. They can come back and do it again. And they know that. As a matter of fact, a lot of them want to get caught because the services that they get while they're in custody are better than what they get in their own country. But that's not our fault that their country's horrible. It's not our job to make their country better or treat their citizens better in our country. Our job is to treat American citizens better. Our job is to take care of American citizens who actually need help. Oh, that's cold. You can't say that. No, I can. You see, I support legal immigration. I have no problem. I'm an Ellis Island person. Hey, if they open up Ellis Island and people follow the system and they come back through and they want to sign up and be absolute the best Americans you can find, I high five. I'll be standing at the bottom of the boat, the plane, wherever they come over and high fiving them for it. And when they stand up and they raise their hand and take that oath and become American citizens, and you see them in those celebrations shedding tears, grown men, what have you, crying because they finally reached their goal and they did it the right way and now they can live the American dream. I want to protect it for them as much as I do everybody else because they're the ones who get slapped in the face when these illegals come into the country, use our resources, get our resources for nothing, and take lives. It's a slap in the face to the good Americans who came here from another country, did everything they could, sacrificed all of it to be a citizen of this great nation. And they took the chance on the dream that is America. And they did it the right way because they know that there are rules. But meanwhile, if you dare question immigration and what's wrong with it and why this president is doing something about it, there's something wrong with you. No, there's not. I talked about Trump yesterday, and I'm not a fan of Trump, but the reason Trump is so popular is because of his comments on immigration reflect what the country is thinking, but nobody has the gall to say. Yes, he's brash. Yes, he's crude. No, I don't agree with what he said about McCain. But when it comes to immigration, he's spot on. And a lot of America agrees with that. Even those of you that hide in your house and talk about it with your loved ones, but you wouldn't dare say it in public because you're afraid to offend somebody. Yeah, you too. There's a reason why when he's leading in the polls right now on the immigration comments, we all feel that way. And it's okay to feel that illegal immigrants need to be dealt with much more sternly, and our immigration policy needs to be fixed. It's okay to agree to that. It doesn't make you a bad person, contrary to what the left and the White House and MSNBC and all those other Mother Jones and Huffington Post, etc. Ignore what they say because they're trying to sell you something. I'm trying to preserve something. I'm trying to preserve our republic. And I'm trying to preserve the law and the rule of this land because that is the basis of our Constitution, for better or for worse. So don't be afraid to speak up against these idiots. They're dreamers. They're this, they're that. No. When they enter this country illegally, they become criminal aliens immediately. Their first act is to break a federal law. I don't care why they're coming here. When your first act in this nation is to break a law, you are a criminal alien. We need to change. We need to really start being realistic about what happens. Because if we can just save one American life, it's worth every moment.